Welcome back, everyone. Great to be with you. Hello, hello. Another beautiful week of Zohar, and we're just a little over 1 week before Lag BaOmer. Today is the 25th day of the Omer, Netzach Shebenetzach, all about consistency, all about perseverance. That's the true force behind what allows this class to keep going. Each and every one of you joining every day with that consistency, the Creator blessing us with getting to be here every day. And we want to ask the Creator to give us the strength for the entire year to continue with our daily study, more importantly, with our spiritual work, with the true desire behind our spiritual work, to make sure that it's pure, to make sure that it's powerful, to make sure that it's ever growing. Our desire to connect to the Zohar, constantly going deeper, constantly revealing more light, sharing more, transforming our desire to receive. Eitan in London this past Shabbat, he shared that that we really have to have a desire to be uncomfortable. I highly recommend for anyone, if you haven't, to watch his lecture from this past Shabbat. Um, it was very powerful. To know that you have two choices. Either be, I forgot the way he phrased it, but he says we're going to be uncomfortable either way, right? So we have to choose the proactive discomfort, and we want to meditate with the power of the week of Netzach and the day of Netzach, that we get this power. So let's begin by setting our intention. Through this study, we want to transform all aspects of our inner negativity, inner darkness, shining the light of the Zohar on the darkest areas of our negativity, of our lower consciousness, to reveal the true light of my soul, to reveal more love, the love that exists within me, reveal that love in the world, with deep appreciation for this great merit that we have to have access to this light. Again, we're coming closer to Lag BaOmer. We're almost just a week to Lag BaOmer, and we want to already start to feel more of the light of Lag BaOmer that shines for us, which is incredibly powerful. And meditate that this light, this love, encompasses the entire world. We know the time of the Omer is the time that we focus on unconditional love. We focus on human dignity. We focus on compassion. We focus on care for one another. We focus on our interactions, our human interactions, so that we can correct this time of separation and of apathy and hatred. So let's begin with the prayer of the Ari, drawing the support, opening our hearts, receiving the true messages the Torah has for us. All right. Okay, here we go. ריבון העולמים ואדוני אדונים אבכם וסליחות מודים לך לפניך אדוני אלוהינו ותאבותינו בקדעה ובשתייה חוויה שקרבתנו לתורתך ולעבודתך עבודת הקודש ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה. אנו לחיינו שעשיתם על החסד כזה. על כן אנחנו מעפילים תחנוננו לפניך שתמחול ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו ואל יהיו עוונותינו מפרידים אלינו לבניך. וכן יהי זמנך אדוני עלינו ולאבותינו שתכונן את לבבינו ליראתך ולאהבתך. ותקשיב אוזניך לדברינו ותפתח לבבינו הערה בסודות תורתך ויהיה למדינו זה נחת רוח לפני כיסא חברך כרך ניחוח ותציל עלינו עומק כל נשמתנו וכל בחינתנו ושיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבדיך הקדושים אשר עידם גילית את אורך לעולם וזכותם וזכות אבותם וזכות תורתם ותמימותם וקדושתם יעמוד לנו למען כשבית ועמד בזכותם תאר עינינו ומה שאנו לומדים כמאמר נעים זמירות ישראל גל עיניו והביט הנפלא מתורתך כי אדוני ייתן חוכמה מפי דעת ותבונה יהי לרצוני נפי והגה לפניך אדוני צור וגואלי. Okay, paragraph 35. Paragraph 35. And I want to show a video of the Rav explaining this paragraph, but I want to first read it, and then we'll play the clip of the Rav. So 35. Rabbi Shimon Amar, Rabbi Shimon says, Ad la'er Yosef hahu avada. Until that moment that Joseph went through, as we understand, the biggest test of his life. The moment where he was all alone, he was in a low state of consciousness, let's say. He was vulnerable. He was feeling bad for himself. His brothers hated him and sold him into slavery. The person he was closest with, his father, didn't even know he was alive. He was working as a slave, separate from his whole family, his community. And his master's wife comes and tries to seduce him repeatedly. And the truth is, we don't talk about this often, but he actually gave in. In the beginning, he gave in. Until, as we'll study from the Zohar later, that his father's image, hologram, let's say, of his father, of Jacob, appeared in front of him. And it helped him resist the it helped him resist his wife, his master's wife, and he didn't go through with the act. It says until that moment, Laikrei tzaddik. He wasn't called a tzaddik. He wasn't called a righteous person yet. He wasn't called Yosef HaTzadik, Joseph the righteous. It's only after this moment, this was his defining moment. This was his defining moment. This moment, of course, we read this, the actual occurrence happens in the portion of Vayeshev, but the Zohar reveals this in the portion of Miketz. The truth is, as this portion reveals a lot more about Joseph's greatness and his consciousness in Miketz than it does in Vayeshev. But until Rabbi Shimon says, until he went through that test, until he passed that test, he wasn't who he really was. And what does being the tzaddik mean? Right? Since he protected, since he guarded the holy covenant, Ikrei tzaddik, he therefore was called a tzaddik. Right? The holy covenant represents the level of Yisod. Yisod is the funnel, the channel of all the upper levels down into our world. It also corresponds, as the sphere correspond to the body, it corresponds to the sexual organ. So because he did the restriction in that area, then only then was he called a tzaddik. Then he was it'ata bahadei. Oh, sorry. Right? That level of the Holy Covenant. It'ata bahadei was crowned with him. Umay dahava babo bekadmeta. And when he was originally within the pit, right? He was thrown into the pit by his brothers, full of the snakes and the scorpions. That represents he was in the klipa. He was stuck in the shell, the klipa. Istalak bahadeh. He was raised out of the klipa. He was raised out of the pit. He raised himself. He rose from the negativity. He managed to do the restriction. It says as they quickly brought him out of the pit. And here Rav Ashlag adds, and the Rav will explain this in the video, if he reached the level of a tzaddik, why did he go back into the pit? Why did he have to go back into the darkness? Why was he in prison? Right after he does the restriction, he doesn't get rewarded. Why? We want to believe that everything works the way we want it to work. Okay, I do something good, I'm going to get a pat on the back. I do the greatest restriction of my life. I go through the greatest test of my life. Okay, now make me king. Make me king. Give me the blessing. Close the deal. Give me the money. Give me my soulmate. Give me whatever it is that I need. That's not what Joseph went through. Joseph went to prison for 10 years with another 2 years. And the quote-unquote reward for his restriction to become king was nowhere in sight. The moment after his greatest restriction, he was furthest from experiencing a manifestation of blessings in his life. Right? He had it all. He was the top servant. Everything. It says that his master put everything in his responsibility. He ran the entire household. Everything he touched turned into gold. He was on top of the world. Greatest test comes. He does the restriction that probably no one else could do the way he did. Right? Now, by the way, we said this before. His restriction was not great because what he physically did. The restriction he made was because he had the desire more than anything. It's not that he had no desire to engage in her advances. He did. He had more desire than anyone else. And therefore, it was the greatest restriction. So because it says when they took him out of the pit, when they took him out of the prison, when they took him out of the dungeon, it means istalak minda, he was taken out of that klipa, right? He was in the pit, his brothers threw him into the pit, and then after his greatest act of restriction, he was thrown back into a dungeon, and using that same word. He was in a pit. He was in darkness. He was in the klipa. And then 12 years later, Veitata bive'er mayim chayim. He was taken out of the pit, and he was crowned, instead of a pit which is just empty, which is dead. He was crowned with a well of living water, the opposite of a pit. A spring of water which represents the Shekhinah. He was crowned with the light of the Creator. He was connected to the complete source of light. So now I want to show this short video of the Rav.
Talking about Joseph. For those of you not familiar with the fact that Joseph was a chariot of Yesod. In other words, he was not only a human being as we are, but in addition to his physical corporeal level of consciousness, he was also a chariot, meaning that his realm of consciousness was a revealed and open-minded state of reality. In other words, we live in illusion most of the times. And if one can adjust himself and condition himself to rise above that 1% illusionary reality, then he is connected to the world of reality where time, space, and motion does not exist. In other words, I don't have to do something today and wake up tomorrow and say, now why did I do something as stupid as that? And that we're all not stupid, and certainly we don't admit to being stupid, then how come we do so many foolish things throughout our life? It is only afterthoughts that we begin to recognize the mistakes we made. But why couldn't we recognize those mistakes as they were happening? Because, says the Zohar, we are not connected, for the most part, to the world of reality where time, space, and motion does not exist. Therefore, before the story of Potiphar, you remember when he was working, he was sold as a slave to this Potiphar, and his wife one day made an attempt to seduce him, and he did not permit himself to be seduced by this woman, and he ran away, and then she came and told a long story about what happened, and therefore he was thrown into jail. Now the Zohar makes it very clear, Miterem shekara Yosef oto maseh lo nikra tzadik. When Joseph, before this story, this incident with the wife of Potiphar, he was not called Tzaddik, meaning Tzaddik is Tzaddik Yisod Olam. That is when they reach that level of consciousness of Yisod. That is called a Tzaddik. If he does not reach that level of consciousness, he may be a fine man, a pious man, but we should not, as we tend to sometimes, use that word very loosely, Tzaddik. Oh, he's a big Tzaddik. When you can understand that he has achieved the level of consciousness of Yesod, then he has achieved that title, if we want to call it that title of Tzaddik. All right? Yosef did not and was not born with that attribute of being a merkav, a chariot to the Sfirat Yesod. Keven sheshama brit kodesh, in other words, because he did not fall into the trap of the wife of Potiphar, then and only then Nikrat Tzaddik. Then he became a Tzaddik. Now, he was thrust into this prison after, so he already was a Tzaddik. He knew that the body would have to go through that experience, but insofar as he is concerned, he did not experience this kind of illusionary structure in his life that one day he's free, the next, and he's the most loved of Jacob's children, and the next minute he's in jail, the next minute he's a king. These are all aspects of the illusionary world. He did not go through changes. He was on that level, watching himself in the movie. Because he knew at the end, and he knew the purpose of it all. Someone of the level of consciousness of Joseph could rise above and not be affected by it.
So, first of all, I wanted to play that from the Rav for many reasons, but one of them being because the Rav is revealing the light of this paragraph. More than just us studying it and reading it, we have a tzaddik explaining what a tzaddik is, right? So we receive that light more powerfully by listening to the Rav explain it. So I wanted us to connect to that energy. Now, what the Rav is saying, what is it? What defines a tzaddik, right? What defines a righteous person? Someone who can be like Yesod, someone who is able to channel all the endless light of the universe through Yesod down into the world, where I receive nothing for myself, where I'm able to share without any agenda, where I'm able to really access the light that's revealed through restriction, that I'm able to do restriction, that I'm able to choose delayed gratification, able to choose the temporary discomfort for the sake of the revelation of light. And that's why the Rav said that even though right after he went into darkness, even though right after Joseph went through a process, but he was at a level of tzaddik. So he was at that state that no matter the ups and downs, his consciousness was connected to the tree of life. When you're connected to the tree of life, and that's the power of the Zohar. That's why we want to connect to the Zohar every day. That's the power of Lag BaOmer. When you're connected to the tree of life, there is no ups and downs. There is no tree of knowledge of good and evil. As long as you access the tree of life, as long as you're holding on to the tree of life, you are not subject to the ups and downs of this physical world. Not to say that we don't get tested, right? Because obviously we do physically live in this reality. Not to say Joseph wasn't tested during this time, but overall his consciousness was at that state. Even though he was at the lowest of the lowest of society, let's say. 1 minute, the prisoner in the Egyptian prison. A second later, he was king. It happened so quickly. It happened within a few minutes, a few hours. He went from the lowest place because internally he was already king. Energetically, spiritually, he was already king. Because he was the master of Yesod. The trick our opponent wants to play on us is I'll feel good when good things are happening to me. I'll be happy when things around me go the way I want them to. No. A tzaddik is someone who is happy, right? As the Rav would say, I'll see it when I believe it. A tzaddik is someone who maintains the consciousness of certainty and happiness no matter what, because they live in that reality of the tree of life. Okay, so things get challenging. Okay, things don't go my way. Oh, okay, there's a challenge. As the Rav says, you look at it from you look at it from above. You look at it from like an almost like an out of body experience to know, okay, my body needs to go through a challenge. There needs to be a challenge in the physical world, but my soul is always connected. My soul, I like the example the Rav gave of like the burning bush, right? It says the bush was burning, but it was not consumed. It's like, yeah, There's a fire, but it doesn't consume me. The tzaddik does not become consumed. Tzaddik is always is unshakable. Obviously, there's so much more here, but we're gonna continue. Paragraph 36. Vayishlach Pharaoh vayikrat Yosef. So it says at that moment that Pharaoh called out, Pharaoh sent for and called out Joseph. Likol Yosef Imalei. Should have said that he and Pharaoh called out Joseph, right? That the proper phrasing would have been Likol Yosef. He called out. Ela vayikra et Yosef, that he called Joseph, right? In the English translation it says, and then Pharaoh called Joseph. But in the Hebrew, vayishlach Paro, he sent out. Pharaoh sent vayikra et Yosef, and he called Joseph. It's a double phrasing. When it says vayikra Yosef, when it says that Pharaoh called Joseph, why does it interrupt the verse and repeat itself? Who called Joseph? It was the Creator who called Joseph. The Creator called to bring Joseph out of the pit. Because same thing, right? We think we live our reality in physicality. I need this person, I need that person. This person does, I do, it's me, I did it. I solved the problem. Or this person saved me. Or this client is what I need. Or this soulmate, or this person, this thing, this external physical thing is going to change my life. Who got Joseph out of prison? It wasn't Pharaoh. It wasn't the butler who remembered his dream. It wasn't anyone but the Creator himself. The Creator called for Joseph to come out of the pit. If you're going through darkness, if you experience a blessing, it is the light of the Creator directly involved in that process. The light that comes is directly from the Creator. The same thing when the Israelites left Egypt. It wasn't an angel, and it wasn't some sort of spirit or anything. It was the Creator himself who brought the Israelites out of Egypt. It was the Creator who brought Joseph out of prison. Dichtiv ad et bod varo imrat Hashem serafat hu. So this is Psalm 105. It's a beautiful psalm where King David goes through kind of a lot of history, the story of the patriarchs, and leading into the story of Joseph in Egypt. And it says, until his prediction came true, meaning until the Creator's promise, the Creator's until the Creator's promise of the Israelites going through slavery, Egypt, right? Abraham's descendants going through darkness and then coming out with great wealth. Until that came true, Imrat Hashem Serafat Hu. The Creator's words were they tested him. Joseph went through a test. But it was the Creator, ad et bo dvaro, until his words came to pass, right? Until what he said happened. Ad et bo dvaro, as it says, vayikra et Yosef, that the Creator called Joseph. It was the Creator himself. Ktiv hacha vayikra Yosef. Here it says the Creator called Joseph. Ktiv hatam vayikra Moshe. Just as when Moses heard the Creator calling him, who called Moses? It was the Creator who called Moses. Same thing. Same thing when the Creator named Jacob. It uses the same phrasing. And then it says vayigalach vayichalef simlotav. It says that in the verse that they shaved Joseph, they gave him a haircut. The Midrash says that Joseph didn't cut his hair since he was sold into a slave. So I guess it's like 12 years. Probably had very long hair. The Midrash says that one of the reasons why he did that is he was like a Nazir. He didn't cut his hair and didn't drink wine. And a Nazarite. He didn't cut his hair and drink wine. We know those are there's a status of a person when they take those restrictions upon themselves. It's to help them do restrictions. So Joseph knew that during this time of darkness he'll need additional help, and he took that commitment upon himself. It's not something that we do in modern times to take such restrictions because there are other ramifications and it's hard to change. If you change your mind and whatever, it's a big deal. So it's not something we do technically today to make that type of restriction. I won't cut my hair, or I won't drink wine for a certain amount of time, because if a person breaks that uh, promise, then it's very problematic. But Joseph, that's one of the things he did. That he didn't cut his hair or drink wine all that time, and that's what helped him with his restriction. And then it says, and they changed his clothes. Why did they do that? And this sounds probably like a superficial kind of answer, but there's probably some more depth here. Begin Yekar de Malka v'Haukmua, because he was in the in for the king's glory. He had to stand in front of Pharaoh, and we've learned that he had to stand in front of the king, so he had to change his clothes. So I'm sure there's a deeper understanding of what this really means. Rav Ashlag just kind of leaves it at that, and maybe we'll understand some kind of more than just a superficial side note. I'm sure there's deeper understanding here. Paragraph 37. Rabbi Elazar Patach. Rabbi Elazar opens, and he quotes a verse, "Vayavo Yisrael Mitzrayim vayakov gar be'eretz cham." So in the same psalm, I think it's 105. Why does it say 104? I think it's 105. Yeah, this should be Psalm 105. Sorry about that, and also in the paragraph. This is the same because 104 is a different one. 105, that's the same verse that we said before of until the Creator, kept His word, He tested him. Rabbi Elazar takes a later verse in that chapter, and it says, "Vayavo Yisrael Mitzrayim," that after Joseph was already in prison, then he became king. Then it says, and Israel came to Egypt, ve'Yaakov ga be'eretz Cham, and Jacob lived in the land of Cham. Tachaze, come and see. The Kutshabrichu megalgel gilgulin be'alma. Rabbi Elazar says we understand from here that the Creator, and we want to, by the way, as we're reading this paragraph, we don't want to just learn something intellectually from the Zohar right now. We want to come to an inner state of consciousness and certainty to experience what Rabbi Elazar is revealing right now. The Creator, the words used is megalgel gilgulim be'alma. It's like the Creator turns wheels in this world. The Zohar uses this phrase often. The Creator makes things happen. The Creator directs things in ways that we cannot calculate or fathom. Unkayem esarim kiyumin. The Creator directs things to happen. The Creator fulfills oaths and promises. Begin the kaima kiyuma ugzera deiu gazer, in order to keep His oath that He promised. And here the Zohar is referring to when the Creator promised Abraham that your children will be strangers in a strange land, and they will be slaves there for 400 years. And I will judge that nation that they are slaves to. And this phrase is the key. And afterwards, Yitzu, the Kabbalah say to meditate on this phrase often, to awaken this consciousness. Yitzu bi'chush gadol. They will come out with a great, here it says great possessions, but they'll come out very wealthy with great wealth. This was the promise that Abraham received from the Creator. They're going to go into darkness for hundreds of years, but they're going to come out bi'chush gadol. We know the Israelites, when they left Egypt, it says that they left with great wealth. The Zohar here reveals the Creator had to do all of these things that we can't even fathom. Same thing in our own lives. We can't understand, we can't fathom why certain things have to happen in our lives. But the Creator is turning wheels, the Creator is moving things. And we often don't understand why the Creator does things. We don't understand the challenges in our lives until later. The consciousness that Rabbi Elazar is revealing is to give us, while the wheels are moving, while the wheels are turning, and I don't understand why things are happening, and I don't see the good as it's occurring, and I don't understand why I'm going through certain challenges, why the world looks the way it does, why my own life looks the way it does. But the Creator is moving. The Creator is turning the wheels. The Creator is doing things that I can't even imagine. Right? There's a horrible joke. I don't remember the whole. I'll try and tell it. There was a guy. He's on a ship, and the ship is drowning. The ship is sinking whole group of people, and the ship is sinking. And the guy calls out, he prays to God, God, please save me. And he hears a voice. Do you know how long it took to get all of you in the same place? Now, again, it's the opposite message of what we're talking about, but it's a horrible joke, I know, and maybe a little insensitive. But right, we have no idea for everyone on the boat to get there at the same time. It took crazy planning from the creator. Every person has their own reason why, their own story of why they're on that boat, but they all had to be there, right? Maybe we can use a positive example or positive story. Horrible joke. But that's what happens, right? Like for thousands of people to share an experience, positive or negative, it took infinite planning to get them all there in a perfect way. And the creator runs this entire universe in that specific perfect way. Paragraph 38. Because we've learned, because if it wasn't for the creator's great love for Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, as the creator told Abraham, your children are going to be slaves. And there's an alternate reality that Jacob was taken into slavery, was taken into Egypt in chains, in iron chains. That reality existed. There was a process where Jacob and his children came as slaves into Egypt. But instead, because of the Creator's great love, Shalta Yosef Bereg, the Creator made Joseph the ruler of Egypt. And he made him king over all of Egypt. And all the tribes, they all came with great glory, with honor. Yaakov Kemalka, and Jacob came instead with the whole family as a king. He came in a chariot sent by his beloved son that he didn't even know was alive. The Creator set up everything with great love and mercy. And that's the certainty and consciousness we want to come to. Paragraph 39, Tachazeh, come and see. Maktiv. As it says in the verse, Vayavo Yisrael mi'Mitzrayim. I wonder if what I was going to say is here. The Zohar later reveal that in order for the Creator's promise of everyone, all the Israelites leaving with great possession, one of the reasons why the famine happened. Why did the famine occur? First of all, that was to bring Jacob to Egypt, but also it was to collect all the wealth of Egypt, all the wealth of the entire world, so that it would be in Egypt. So when the Israelites left, they would take it with them. Right? So think about all the different details. And we've said this lesson many times before. If Jacob got what he wanted, if Joseph got what he wanted, if the brothers got what they wanted, if everyone got what they wanted, it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened the way it was supposed to. Jacob wouldn't have come as a king to Egypt. The Israelites wouldn't have received all the endless blessings they were supposed to. Sometimes if things go the way we want, it could be the worst outcome. Let's just read one more paragraph. That's okay with everyone? Just because we had a little delay. Maybe two. Let's see. Okay, one more. 39. Come and see. Right, the verse Rabbi Elazar brought before. It says that Israel came to Egypt, Jacob lived in the land of Ham. When it says that that Israel came to Egypt, Israel is referring to Jacob. Don't we know that Jacob lived in the land of Ham? Ham was the second son of Noah, and each of the three sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Yefet, their descendants are what are called the 70 nations. So Ham, his descendants, one of them was Canaan, another one was Mitzrayim, Egypt. So it says when Jacob lived in the land of Ham, it means that he's living in Egypt. Or, excuse me, if he's living in Egypt, we know he's living in the land of Ham. Why did it need to say in the verse, why did it need to repeat itself? Why is the verse repeating itself? Obviously, just coming to reveal a secret for us. Ella, the Zohar answers rather, when it says that Israel, referring to Jacob, came to Egypt, we're not referring to Jacob, the physical Jacob. Dakut Shabricha, we're talking about the light of the Creator. We're talking about the energy of Zerampin, which is called Israel. The Creator came to Egypt. The Yaakov Gabez Cham, and then Jacob, the physical person, Jacob lived in the land of Cham, the descendant of, right, Egypt being his descendant. Da Yaakov, that's Jacob. So the Zohar is revealing that this verse is saying, because of Jacob, because of Jacob and his children, the tribes, because Jacob and the 70 people all together came to Egypt, then the light of the Creator came with them into Egypt. Ata Shchinta l'Mitzrayim. The light of the Shekhinah, the Creator, came with them into Egypt. Once again, the Zohar says that the Creator planned everything, turned all the wheels, all the infinite little details to make everything perfect and happen the way it was. Yosef bekadmeta. The Creator first put Joseph as king, planned that Joseph would first be king. Because it was in Joseph's merit that the covenant was fulfilled. That the Creator's covenant to Abraham was fulfilled because Joseph kept the covenant, right? Meaning the energy of Yisod. The Shalte al kol ara, and the Creator put him in control of the entire world. We'll have to stop here. The Zohar will continue to explain more of Psalm 105 and reveal, because that's where King David reveals aspects of this whole story. And then we're going to continue with the power of the tzaddik, with the way that Joseph interpreted the dream and the way that he spoke to Pharaoh. We'll continue with all of that tomorrow. Thank you all for joining. Lots of love and see you tomorrow.